Hello, and welcome to this week's Catholic Herald podcast, where we discuss what's really happening in the Catholic Church. I'm Madeleine Tehan, the Associate Editor, and today I'm joined by Stephen Bullivant, Senior Lecturer in Theology and Ethics at St Mary's University, Twickenham. And today we are discussing why the Year of Mercy might fail. So Stephen, following on from your article in this week's Herald about why the Year of Mercy might fail, let's start by defining our terms. What would constitute a Year of Mercy fail, and what then would make it a success as far as you're concerned?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here, Madeleine. Always nice to talk to you. Obviously, it's always difficult to quantify what counts as a success or a failure in all sorts of ways. What the Year of Mercy, what the Holy Father seems to be trying to do with the Year of Mercy is really to remind Christians and others of this kind of magnificent gift which God offers to humanity and keeps on offering, and it's up to us to take it. And the intention behind the doors of mercy in each diocese and often in several places throughout the dioceses is to offer the kind of opportunities that in a Jubilee year involve going to Rome to everyone. Now, in a sense, what would count as a success is if more people avail themselves, not just of the plenary indulgence attached to the doors, which you have to put quite a bit of thought into and know what you're doing and make a special trip and sort of follow the rubrics. But beyond that, for more people to avail themselves of, if you like, the ordinary, although of course they're extraordinary, sacramental means that God offers us of his mercy, particularly obviously confession, but I mean baptism really is a preeminent sacrament of mercy in that it wipes away all sin in the way that a plenary indulgence then does after baptism. Now, at a very crude statistical level, which is often the level I like to work at, if parishes, dioceses keep accurate confession statistics, then hopefully you'd see a rise in that, not just in the year itself, but after the year itself. I think it would be awkward to try and quantify the kind of people, going through the doors and doing the full plenary indulgence, because obviously a lot of that is sort of off the radar, but also those doors are open all the time. So in terms of trying to quantify it, you'd want to see some kind of upturn in pretty moribund confession stats.
Right.
Plus more people getting baptised, that'd be nice.
Yes, no, that would be... and
getting their children baptised.
Yeah, well, that's very, very, very interesting. But of course, I suppose also with it's so hard with these things, isn't it? Because even with things like baptism, there's always that sort of more cynical view. Sometimes you hear people saying, "Oh, they're only getting them baptised to get them into the local school." Or whatever. So, like with any sacrament, I suppose would it be impossible for us to ever know how effective something like the Year of Mercy is, because it's the intention behind it. But we can move on to that in a little bit. But I want to ask you next, Stephen, is in your article you identify the biggest obstacle facing the Year of Mercy. What is the biggest obstacle?
Well, I mean, the biggest obstacle is, I mean, the whole kind of meaning of mercy only makes sense on the understanding of sin and sinfulness, on there being a kind of a just charge against us, and God mercifully, in his sort of forgiving nature, letting us off the hook, although because of the payment that Christ has made on our behalf on the cross. Now, unless we have this sense that we're in need of kind of being brought back then mercy ends up as quite a hollow category, because if we're not aware of there being something wrong, then why bother trying to make it right, and why receive the astonishing gift that God gives us through his mercy as something special?
Yeah. But, I mean, I think that something else to think about in the Year of Mercy is, have Catholics, along with the rest of society, lost an appreciation of sin, possibly also because, wider secular society, there's so much moral relativism that perhaps we don't even believe in evil anymore, and sin as a consequence. But also, I'm just wondering whether as Catholics we've somewhat lost the art of how to go to confession, how to confess. I remember when the Vatican had to remind priests and penitents, I think it was in 2009, that confession isn't a counselling session. And I think that also, even if you look at the standard act of contrition, which is pasted in a lot of confessionals, oh my God, because you are so good, I'm very sorry that I have sinned against you, and with the help of your grace I will not sin again. If you compare that to sort of older forms of the act of contrition, the older forms contain things like, I detest my sins because I dread the pains of hell, I firmly resolve to amend my life, to do penance, etc. There's even a contrast in the way we confess, and I think that it's the emphasis on sin and actually reforming your life is not even there in the act of contrition as strongly as it used to be. So perhaps there needs to be sort of a more kind of evangelization and catechesis with regards to what confession actually means.
Well, I agree. I think you're right that sort of Catholics, first of all, have got out of the habit of going to confession. I mean, there'll be plenty of people on an ordinary Sunday who haven't been to confession in years, if not decades. Now, it's not a thing that, I mean, I didn't go through Catholic school, though, I was received, as an adult. And so I don't know what's taught in schools. I don't know what's taught in First Communion prep. I suspect the emphasis on sin and contrition and repentance and how to make a good confession and precisely all the things you just say aren't heavily emphasized. I think you're right.
Yeah.
This is one of the things, by the way, why we've kind of started going to the extraordinary form most Sundays, but one of the things I miss is the through my most grievous fault from the New Translation, which I think does force this point home about our sinfulness standing before God.
No, absolutely. But, I mean, how do you think so far, Stephen, just as a practicing Catholic yourself, do you sort of sense, just on an anecdotal basis, that the Year of Mercy is having a great impact?
Well, it's difficult to say. I mean, I think and I suspect you might be the same, is that the kind of circles you move in, the kind of people you're friends with on Facebook, are probably the kinds of people who will, A, know that there's a Year of Mercy, and be keen to avail themselves of what it offers. So within that practicing Catholic bubble, then, I mean, as these years go, it seems to be one of the big ones. I mean, the Year of Consecrated Life, perhaps if I was in consecrated life, may have been a huge deal, but it doesn't feel like it had a massive impact. The Year of Faith, I think, did to an extent. In terms of visibility, in terms of being talked about, then I would say that the Year of Mercy kind of, message is out. And plus, I mean, I think one of the good things is that because it's been, if you like, devolved to the local level, and that there's a door in every diocese, it's put the onus on dioceses to think, well, what can we do around this? And so, you've got kind of creative kind of publicity stunts in a I don't mean that in a pejorative way around it, which again is good. But again, there's a difference between us all knowing that it's the year of mercy and, you know, some nice branding on posters, and more people availing themselves of the sacramental means which God has given us as the concrete expression of his mercy.
And a year is a long time, so
it is.
Obviously around Lent there probably will be a lot of enthusiasm, but it'll be interesting to see what happens after that, because, you know, to keep up that momentum and interest in the year of mercy, and as you say, you know, going to confession, that sort of thing, whether that will continue for the remainder of the year remains.
Yeah, I mean, Ash Wednesday is coming up next week, and, you know, that's the kind of the one non-Sunday of the year when people do go to Mass.
Yeah.
And many people who don't go on many Sundays of the year might turn up. And obviously, all the themes we've talked about, repentance, but, you know, what comes after it, what God offers us, that's all packaged into Ash Wednesday. And I suspect that the themes of mercy and the year of mercy will be very prominent at those masses, and hopefully it will be a good way to kick off Lent for us all.
Well, if you'd like to read Stephen's article in full, the Catholic Herald is out now, and it's priced at £2. Or why not download our new app, which is absolutely free, and you get the whole magazine, including Stephen's wonderful article. Please visit catholicherald.co.uk for more information. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure. Always a pleasure.